I never know when it
There it goes.
officially live, I think. Hi, everybody. Thanks for
Hi,
joining
everyone.
us. I am Dr. Rachel, forensic psychologist. This is my co-host, Scott Snyder, former detective and Renaissance man extraordinaire. And we have today Lauren Conlin, host of the Outlier podcast, but she does so many more other things than that. And I will say, if you guys have not heard her interview with Kirk Nurmi about men's mental health, please make sure you listen to that episode. It is really good. But Lauren, you have some other projects coming up too. So tell us a little bit about that first.
Yes. Thank you for asking, Rachel, Dr. Rachel. And hello, Scott. Thank you
Lauren.
for having me. I did just launch a new podcast with Jarrett Ferrantino. He is a former homicide prosecutor out of Pennsylvania. And our new show is called Primetime Crime. And it drops every Friday, new episodes. And we actually are doing it on YouTube. I'm getting a lot more involved on YouTube. I think you've been noticing. Yeah. I guess it's been something that's scary to me for a long time. I'm strictly audio. I like to edit what I say. I like to cut my dumbass filler words and my curses. So yeah, just because it's just, I don't know. We live in a world where what you say can be pretty permanent, and it could be serious at times.
True.
But
yeah.
I am facing my fears. I've done 2 live streams so far with lots of technical issues, but I'm excited. So yeah, keep an eye open for my YouTube. It's Pop Crime TV.
Cool. Thank you.
Very
yeah.
cool.
I like to fly by the seat of my pants. That's just kind of how I operate. Scott, not so much, but we make it work. So technical issues, we all have them. Don't worry about it, Lauren. You guys have been doing so great.
Thank you. I felt so stupid. I was like, I'm sorry, everybody waiting on this live for me to get my act together.
Nah, we
it
all
happens.
get it.
It happens. Yeah. So lots going on, Lauren.
Yeah. So lots of things going on. I don't know where you guys want to start, but I was catching up earlier on what was happening in Dedham this morning during the jury verdict slip. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And that in itself, having the not guilty of manslaughter not there, that was intense in itself. And then, oh my gosh, when the judge was like, what are you laughing at, Miss Reader? Is something fun? I was like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to die. I was like, this is so awkward. Ugh.
Which, good thing the jury wasn't in there, but I mean, I think we all have recognized, like, she's had a little bit of a hard time controlling her face, and part of me understands that, but at the same time, it's like really, and I think she's just like, I'm sure emotionally she's a wreck right now.
I think the way I took that, if she was laughing, it was absolutely a sarcastic, like, you know what?
Totally.
I knew this would happen after
like,
this entire, exactly. Where I'm sure Karen was like, it wasn't appropriate to laugh, obviously, but I'm sure it was kind of like eye roll, laugh. Of course, she's going to rule this way. I'm not surprised. That's what I took it as.
But then this didn't officially happen. But in my mind, what happened was she went back to her chambers and the Chief Justice was like, yo, you need to get back in there and amend this form. Because that just looked really bad. Even though I agree with you, it looked really bad.
Yeah. And
I don't know that happened. I'm just kidding.
No, of course. And I think that's fair speculation. And Alan Jackson made a good point. And he's like, cool, we're just going to appeal this. This is so easy. And I sent it to a few other attorneys and they're like, yeah, that's not good. So I think she did the right thing by amending the form. And she, she said it herself. She was tired, right? She was tired. She was, so I think maybe she pulled herself together and said, okay, we're almost done. We're almost at the finish line. Let me just hold it together for hopefully another day or so.
Yeah. And Scott and I were talking just before this about, what is this going to be like for the town, regardless of the verdict? Like, which way, so if she is acquitted, I mean, there's a lot at stake here for the government officials there and people in power, the police department. I mean, there's a lot at stake. So, and while there are all these supporters out there, I mean, it will fuel them to make things change. But then if there's a guilty verdict, then what? What do you think, Lauren? How do you imagine this?
Yeah, I mean, well, I just want to go back really quick and point out something else interesting from this morning, which was the jury asking for the CERT report or the CERT team report. And the judge saying, you guys got all the evidence you have, meaning there really isn't much of a CERT team report of the actual search of the taillight pieces, or there is, but clearly it's not sufficient enough. So I was like, oh, okay, that's very
But will the jury interpret it that way? Or will they just think, oh, we're not allowed to have reports? Like what? I don't know how they'll interpret that.
She told them, we gave you every piece of evidence. What was presented in court, they have everything. So I think that they were under the impression that certain things are missing, and Canoni's like, nope, nothing's missing. You guys have everything that they did, so I thought that possibly could have been a sign that maybe we will get a verdict today. If they're, they were looking for something in particular and they're not getting it, maybe that'll lean them. Who knows? But
because sometimes they don't allow, like they allow the testimony, but they don't allow the actual reports for things to go into the evidence, into the room with the jury. And so I wasn't sure if that was a situation where those reports, like the testimony on the reports is evidence,
I see what you're saying,
not the actual report that they can read. That's why they can't sit and read their report into the record. It's like,
okay, sorry, I get what you're saying.
So I wasn't sure, but you might be right, because there were several reports that were not actually done on both sides. So I don't know.
I think they were just looking for more detail, and they did not get it. But going back to your question about what's going to happen in that town, that's super interesting, because I think the town has already become incredibly, or already was divided, and has been divided for the last 2 years. So that, I'm going to speculate that it's just going to intensify and get worse for a time. And then I believe that people may eventually forget about it, depending on which way the verdict goes. Because let's say she's found not guilty, and there's people that staunchly believe in a cover-up, in a conspiracy. And I think that all eyes are going to be looking to the people that they believe are involved. And it could get worse for them.
Well, I just hope that the PD has the presence of mind, Lauren, to beef up on the day that they believe the verdict's going to be read, because, how many times have we seen cities not do that, knowing that something huge is coming up, and then they get overwhelmed, at the last minute and try to play catch up, and it just doesn't work. And, I fully expect that there's going to be some stuff go down, at least in Canton, if not in Boston as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I just realized, sorry, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just sensitive about this case. And I just realized that I have a pink shirt on, and I'm going to get like, oh, she's that's
free funny.
Karen Read, free Karen Read. And I make it very clear that throughout this trial, I've said there's so much reasonable doubt. I think that it's hard to say, right? Hard to say, but in my opinion, Crash Daddies sealed the deal for me, and the medical examiner, Dr. Scorty Bello, and then the lack of reconstruction expert, Trooper Paul, the lack of information there. That's when I was like, oh yeah, I don't think this is going well for the state. That's my opinion. But again, now I'm wearing a pink shirt, so I'm sure I'll be accused.
Whatever. I'm going to send you a beaded bracelet with FKR on it. I know that's what I know.
Thank you so much. You know, that's what I'm done. Yeah, no, listen, I'm all about what I hear, what I see. And that's why I've told people, when I stream the trial, I don't want anyone's opinion. I just want to watch it myself. I want to form my own opinions. And that's how I roll. So
yeah, do the same. So Scott, are you still there? I think Scott froze. I was
I'm like, yeah, he's here. Oh, he did freeze, didn't he?
He froze up, but you're smiling. Look good, Scott.
And it's a good freeze frame. Yeah,
it is. Sure. But I was like, he's staying so still. How is he doing that? Well, hopefully he gets back with us. But yeah, so so this morning we saw a very different Karen Read, I think, walking through down the sidewalk, and I imagine she's just completely panicked, and I can't even imagine. I mean, it's got to be surreal even for the witnesses who are, leaving there, and they have these crowds, like Crash Daddy had got in his, whatever car, his tinted window government vehicle, and drove off, and everyone was like shouting for. I mean, that has got to be. He's probably like, what in the like?
It's strange, and I agree. And just being there 2 weeks ago at the courthouse outside. I mean, I got there at 7 a.m. and people were already standing there with signs. There was tons of news outlets already there doing their stand-ups, and it was a beautiful day, and it's a really cute town. And I said to myself, I was like, this doesn't feel like I'm outside of a murder trial. This does not feel like it at all. This kind of feels like it's it kind of felt like the exact opposite, to be honest.
Yeah, like, I don't think I've seen a non-celebrity trial with that kind of a turnout, right?
I know, exactly. You're right. You're absolutely right, Rachel.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think someone was saying, like, if Johnny Depp was there, okay, we get that, but I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about that kind of response for a particular person. I think for their cause, they feel strongly that this is an ongoing sort of corruption within the town. I do understand that, but it's gotten like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how much I want to get into my opinion about that.
No,
But
and I don't it upsets me that you have to feel that way and you have to say that, because it's really not, it's not
yeah,
fair for any of us. And it's not fair that I had to say, "Oh, I'm wearing pink, I'm going to get dragged for basically having all but a hashtag of free Karen Read, on the screen
I
at
think
this
that's
point."
hilarious.
But yeah, it's I don't understand why it's, I guess I have a hard time with, like, why is it not okay to question things? Why is it not okay to have a differing opinion? Even if, and I've said, I think that the whole idea of the fact that they beat the crap out of him or whatever, I've always been like, oh, that's a head scratcher. I don't quite. Oh, hey
Right.
Scott.
Hi.
Hey, you okay?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I think we had a temporary internet outage in my area just for a couple of minutes
Oh,
because everything just went
Yeah,
down.
that
you
happens to me
froze.
all the time. All the time in Manhattan. Spectrum sucks.
You froze
Yeah.
But
smiling, and I was like, he's
yeah,
so still. What is going on? It's really
but
funny.
it was a good freeze frame, so it worked
It
out.
was.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
But
Yeah. So
but no, I was just saying, like, I think it's perfectly acceptable to question these things and still question the lack of facts around her allegedly hitting him. I can't make sense of that
yeah.
either. So I just don't understand why people are so horrible, and they love the word grifter, and it's the
Oh, wow.
craziest thing. I'm like, why is this so different? Why is this so,
People are
yeah.
triggered by this and I've been like really trying to figure that out. They're really triggered by this. It's very raw hatred and loathing that has come bubbled up out of people over
Yeah.
this particular trial. And I think that can be for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, it's like I think that's why people get so scared to say their opinion now, because it's just like the comments, and you'd have to you'd have to block and mute everybody if you want to say what you really
For
think,
sure.
Yeah,
So
I don't necessarily really block anyone, except if they're just coming after me personally for
yeah.
absolutely no reason with the name calling. And that's what's tough about this, is like, somebody responds to someone's opinion saying, "No, dumbass, it's this." And you're like, "Why do you have to do that?" Like,
Why you
it's,
have to call
yeah.
names? Leave that part out. I know, it's
Yeah.
really interesting to me. It's very yeah, people are, like, having this visceral reaction to
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
events that are going on, and it's crazy. So I wonder, so speaking of celebrities, we have Alec Baldwin's hearing or trial coming up, and he is a
Yeah.
celebrity, and I wonder if there will be as much of an turnout outside of his courthouse. I would say probably no. Scott, I don't know, what do you think?
I don't think as much, but I do think it's another case that's very hotly divided. I mean, there's a lot of people that do not like Alec Baldwin
Yeah.
and want nothing more than to see him go down for this. I don't know. I mean, I have my opinions on how that trial's going to go.
Mhm.
I do think that based on what the recent filing that they did with the FBI damaging the gun, I think the judge is going to have to rule on that by Friday. Apparently, is what's going to happen there. So,
Oh,
Fill our viewers in on that, Scott, real quick, of
so
what you're talking
essentially,
about.
essentially, what happened there is Alec has always said that he did not pull the trigger, and
mhm.
so the prosecution said, well, then we want the gun tested to make sure that the gun, has to have the trigger pulled. So what they did is the FBI called in some people to do the testing on it, and it's my understanding that what they did is they took the gun and they hit it several times with a rubber mallet trying to get it to discharge. Well, apparently they did it too hard and the gun broke into 3 or 4 pieces.
Yeah.
And so now the defense is saying we cannot give our client basically a fair shake
Yeah.
without having the actual weapon. And
Right.
so the judge is gonna rule on that on Friday. So Lauren, what's your take on that whole thing?
Yeah, it's really it's really interesting, and it's so sad, this entire thing. And the reason I say that it's interesting is because from the start, Alec Baldwin has said, I didn't pull the trigger. And I think that left a lot of us questioning him and his credibility, because you're like, you were holding the gun. Who else pulled the trigger? And you know what I'm saying? And now, yeah, it's interesting to know that he's saying that the gun had some kind of issue, because I didn't think of that. I didn't think of a malfunction or, whatever. Now, the prosecution, they kind of push back and they're like, well, you knew there was a live round in this gun. And I guess this goes back to where I might not have a popular opinion on this, but I don't necessarily think it's Alec Baldwin's fault. I actually do put a lot of the blame on Hannah Gutierrez Reed. I really
Same
do.
here.
Yeah, I do.
same.
And for a number of reasons, but I do believe that Alec Baldwin, he needs to also take accountability for his role in what happened. However, they've already taken the steps to, reach out to Helena Hutchins's family. I know that they've and again, nothing will bring this, her son,
it's
his
awful.
mother back, right?
Yeah,
and
awful.
a man, his wife back. Nothing will ever bring her back. And it's terrible. They did compensate the family, and they made him an executive producer on Rust, so he would be able to get whatever residual streaming fees, whatever. Yeah. So that family is taken care of. And I know that Alec Baldwin had a lot to do with that. Again, going back to Hannah Gutierrez Reed, I have no doubt that she was irresponsible, partying on set. We know this. They proved this. They proved this beyond a reasonable doubt. Something interesting about this movie, and I said this on another podcast, I actually I met almost the entire creative team in 2019 when I was covering a film called Crown Vic. So it's a lot of the same actors. It's the same director, Joel Souza. So a few days before the shooting, I was texting with one of the actors. He sent me a picture. Yeah, they were all on set. They all had cowboy hats on. I said, how's it going? And he said, it's great. And I was like, awesome. I can't wait to cover this movie, because I was like, knee deep in doing entertainment stuff. And it was a few days later that the shooting happened. And I texted him and I said, did you feel safe on set? Did you think that anything was strange or just loose? And he said, I felt extremely safe with Hannah and Dave Halls. Dave Halls was the assistant director. And he said, I never noticed anything strange. I mean, and again, he might have been not really saying anything because he didn't want to stir the pot, whatever. But when this movie was gearing up to start production, I got wind of financials for the film. They were looking for somebody to kind of help get some investors. So they, I kind of connected with them at this red carpet, this premiere. And so they sent me the financials, and I did notice the budget was super low. So the fact that Hannah Gutierrez Reed did have to double as a props person and the armorer, that sucks. And she did let producers know a few weeks ahead of time, or a few weeks before this accident happened, this tragic accident. And they said, yeah, Hannah, I know that you have two jobs, but you need to focus on both props and guns. And she was just like, okay. And maybe they should have said less on partying.
Exactly.
Yeah, do you think, I was going to say, do you think though her attention was so split that that's the cause of this mistake? I guess that's the big thing, is like, I mean, maybe her attention wasn't, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the demand was. I'm not in that industry to know what that would be like, but it seems that gun safety maybe would take priority over.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
In that moment where you're saying this is a cold gun, it's like.
Yeah. And that is the big question. Like, she did not, did I freeze?
Yeah, but we can hear you. We can hear you, Lauren.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll come back in a minute, or I'll refresh in a minute. But yeah, no, I'll try to refresh. No, she never explained how this live round got on to the set, right? This is crazy. That's the craziest thing. And the fact that hold on, I'm gonna try to refresh. God, StreamYard. You might lose me for a minute, okay?
Okay, no
It's
worries.
okay. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
No
my
worries.
gosh, this is so nuts. I almost don't want to because I'm
Where you might
scared.
not be
It'll
able to
it'll
get
it'll
back
make
on.
my whole
Yeah.
well, whatever. It'll make my whole computer freeze. I'm like, "Oh, no."
Well, we can still hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, maybe I'll play around with
I was
this
gonna say, or
for
if you
for a
wanna
hot
restart,
minute.
you can. We can chat until you get back.
Sure.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna restart really
Okay,
quick
go
if you
ahead.
guys
That's
don't
fine.
mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
All good, all good.
Rachel, what we were talking about earlier, though, too, with regard to Alec Baldwin, I mean, yeah, the prosecution is going to argue, okay, yeah, he was given what was allegedly a cold gun, but he wasn't supposed to pull the trigger. He was, and I read this in an NBC article here just recently, interview. He was told explicitly, according to NBC, don't pull the trigger. So he draws the gun, he has his finger on the trigger, and he points it right at Helena and does. So they're going to argue that. They're also going to argue that, he was ultimately the head of this thing. He was the producer.
Right.
Ultimately, the safety lies in his hands. I have a tendency to kind of agree a little bit with what Lauren is saying, though, too. You hire these experts on purpose,
Right.
and you hire them with the idea in mind that they know what the heck they're doing, that they're capable of doing the job. And when they hand you a gun and they say it's a cold gun, you expect that to be the case. So I
Right.
can see both sides of this, but the bottom line is he should not have pulled that trigger. And I think that's
Yeah.
going to be the big argument, Rachel.
I think so too. And that's what Trishy was saying too, the producers are accountable as well. And that's, you know, when hey,
Hey, Lauren.
when someone sues a company for the actions of another of an employee, it's the company that takes the brunt of that, right? And so
Right.
it's
Right.
that's kind of how it goes. And I do get that part of it. I don't know
Yeah.
what the accountability should be. I don't the thing is, I feel like I don't know what jail time accomplishes, I guess, is what
Mhm.
is he a danger to society? I don't I
No,
don't think
no,
I
so.
think
It's
it's about
it's
being
just
punished for your
punishment.
actions. Yeah,
Right.
that there's a twofold there, right? Yeah,
And
it's
in
like,
yeah,
are you a
negligence,
danger? But
it's like in negligence, it's like one thing if you're a doctor and you're like,
yeah,
I don't know, like I guess I don't know, maybe this is comparable. If you're a doctor and you leave a sponge in someone during surgery,
sure.
it's like,
yeah.
yeah, you should have done
Yeah,
that. You should have followed, you should have done a better job paying more attention to that. But like even
yeah.
doctors though, you don't send to jail for that kind of stuff, right? You like
No, they might be
punish.
a danger to society there. That really makes it right at that.
But it's an interesting thing because
Yeah,
physicians very rarely are criminally charged for things like that, even if a patient ends up dying. I mean, they might have
Right.
their license, their ability to practice be um, suspended or under supervision or whatever, but they very rarely are criminally charged. And so it's just an
Yeah.
interesting thing. And so, like, should Alec maybe not be, I don't know how that works, but not be allowed to do certain movies, handle weapons, that kind of thing.
I don't think he ever would at this
Yeah,
point.
oh, I
Would
don't think
you?
so
I mean,
either.
yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like voluntarily he's like, I am out. I am, and
never
I don't know
again.
if you discussed this, but I think the jail sentence would be 18 months if he's
Yeah,
found guilty.
right.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so it's not it's nothing crazy, but I believe that's what Hannah Gutierrez Reed is serving, something
She
like
is.
18 months. Yeah, and she's having a very hard time with it. I don't mean to roll my eyes. She was just the most unlikable defendant I've ever
She
seen in
really
my life.
was.
Yeah,
She
I was like,
really was.
whoa. Yeah, I was like, look alive, like look like at least, or look sorry, look
Yeah.
just a little less
Yeah.
Pretend, like, at
bored to
least
be there.
pretend. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
exactly. And I do remember though when this happened, George Clooney came out and said something along the lines of, anytime I'm handed a gun on set, I open it up and I show my fellow
Right.
actors on set with me, and I show the
Mhm.
crew. And so
Yeah.
he's like, I don't know why Alec Baldwin wouldn't do that. And I just remember Alec Baldwin was like, yeah, so that's not really helpful at this point for you to say
Yeah,
that,
Yeah.
but it was a good point that he made. So
yeah. But
Well,
is
and
he
here's
required to do that? That's the difference. Like, that's nice. That's a great extra thing you do to pad yourself, but are you required to do that? That would be the question I would have.
Well, and
Yeah.
while you were rebuffering Lauren, we were talking about that. I mean, that's what the prosecution is going to argue, in my opinion, is that yeah, he pulled the trigger, and it's his responsibility to not pull that trigger. Where that's going to go, I don't know. They're also going to bring in the fact that that set had a very reckless, or had a reputation of being very reckless on set, that he was all over the place, which has and yelling and screaming at people, which has no bearing on the shooting whatsoever. But
Yeah.
he also apparently, from what I have read, and I don't know that this is true, I read it on somewhere on the internet. Apparently he
All
was
true.
also firing, that's all got to be true, right?
Yeah, exactly.
um he was also firing blanks recklessly on scene and just kind of all
Mm.
over the place. So those are
Mhm.
things that are definitely going to come into play, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to the film being, it wasn't with a major motion picture studio. It was an independent company where Alec Baldwin was also a producer on
Right.
it. So I'm sure he sunk in some of his own money. And again, I at the time I saw their financials, it was like a $6 million budget, which is absolutely nothing when you're shooting
Yeah.
a
Right.
large film like that. So yeah, I think all of that uh is going to come up. Well, maybe not that part. Maybe that could be maybe part of the defense here. But no, I think it also comes down to the fact, why would you hire a 25-year-old armorer? I know that
Right.
she had experience through her father. He was this big Hollywood, I forget his name, but
The
why
who
would you
you
do that?
know.
Hmm.
Why would you do that? Yeah. I mean, how many films could she have actually worked on by the age of 25? Not that many.
Well, and
Well, and
side note, I was really unimpressed with her dad at her sentencing,
yes.
but that's a whole other thing. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Scott.
No, what I was going to say is I don't know who all remembers this, but I remember it very clearly, Lauren, and maybe you will too. At the very beginning of the investigation into this shooting, it was like in day 3 or 4. It was very early. Hannah went on record and said she almost didn't take that position because she
Mm.
didn't feel she had the experience. And
Wow.
then she was
Ugh.
talked into it, and her dad gave her confidence, and she took it. And that was a very damning statement for her to make.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
remember
I
Yeah.
that.
didn't know that either, but I believe it. And I wish she did not take it either, because most
Yeah.
likely a little boy would still have his mother. So,
Oh,
Agreed.
no, I
yeah,
hate this. I hate this case for this reason. I mean,
I
like,
know.
obviously nobody wanted her to die. Nobody, I mean,
Of
No.
course.
nobody thinks their stupid actions are going to result in something this horrific. And,
Yeah.
it's like, but at the same time, when you are in that profession and you take on a role of armor, you should understand how serious that is, right? You should
Yeah.
Right.
know that, like, my job means life or death for people.
It does. And you
And
Yeah.
can't
and
be,
so, like, that's the point of you,
yeah,
right? To make
you
sure
can't be
no one
partying and
dies,
all
no one
that.
gets hurt.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She should never have been partying ever. And
No.
I know that Alec Baldwin is not liked by a lot of people. You know, the court of public
Mhm.
opinion has really made their assumptions about him. So I'm reading that comment too. The industry is
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
really good comment from Trishy, and thank you so
very
much for
true.
being here, Trishy. I mean, this may be one of those cases. It's really sad that it sometimes
Mhm.
takes a tragedy to facilitate change on certain things. But this may be one of those situations where they do take a really good look at these gun
Yeah.
regulations on set and change things. So thank you
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that comment. That's awesome.
Scott, you were telling me before, tell him what you were talking about with even, like, cops, how they're taught to draw their weapons and
Well, and that brings up another piece. So I was telling Rachel earlier, Lauren, I watched
Mhm.
some videos of Alec Baldwin. I don't know if it was at the time, right? If it was shot, the video was shot right before the actual shooting,
Mhm.
but I watched him on set, and there were some videos of him drawing the gun, cross drawing the gun with his finger on the trigger. Okay.
Ooh,
So big no. As a former
yeah.
police officer, I can tell you, we are taught you keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you are ready to shoot the gun, period. Even
Wow.
when we're doing building searches, whatever, you go through there with your finger off the trigger. You can make the argument on both sides. You can say, okay, maybe that was just a video where he had his finger on the trigger and he didn't really
Yeah.
do that with Hannah, or with Helena rather. But Generally speaking, people draw guns one way, and if you have a habit of drawing with your finger on the trigger, I mean,
Yeah.
I think they could make that argument. There's a very good possibility that he
Mhm.
just did that and pulled the trigger, and that's not a good thing. It's just not a good look.
Yeah, and I think many of us have seen the computer aided reconstruction, or not reconstruction, reenactment of what they believe happened, and it's
Mhm.
so sad the way. I mean, it's like, let's not forget it hit director Joel Souza as well. He just
Yeah.
lived.
Yes.
So yeah, it's gosh, I am anxious to see what other evidence the state puts forward in
Mhm.
this, what they have on video, what they have recorded, what they have, I'm super interested to see.
Hmm.
And I want to see, well, I guess like you said, well, Scott, we'll wait till Friday to see how the judge rules on this. But
Right.
I mean, how much is this trial going to cost? Does it make sense to not have a trial because the gun is broken at this point? I mean, I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
I have no idea. I don't
And
know
what was
what.
I,
their access to the gun before this, where they had time? Did they
yeah.
have time to do this testing and didn't? It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the defense is they're obviously gonna do what they can do to defend their client. And the fact
Yeah.
that they're saying, well, we can't give him a fair shake now without the
mhm.
actual gun, because when the FBI tested it, for those of you who are just joining us, they tested the gun to see if it could be fired without pulling the trigger. They did it by using a rubber mallet. They hit the gun several times. The gun is now in 3 or 4 pieces. So the experts are saying, or excuse me, the defense is saying, we can't give our client a fair shake without the gun. But on the other side, Lauren and Rachel, I think that that's why you bring in experts, and you bring in those FBI experts that say, yeah, we broke the gun. We didn't mean for that to happen. But hello, the gun did not go off and could not be fired without the trigger being pulled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll do that, right? Maybe
Yeah.
that's a really good possibility. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like in this case, it's just nobody wins. I mean, in most
I
trials and
know.
cases, nobody
No.
wins, right? Obviously, but this one is just, it's just been drawn out for so long, and I think
Mhm.
Hmm.
yeah, the public is just like, okay, let's make a decision here on Baldwin, because it's,
Right.
I'm sure, and here's the thing, I feel like I'm sure that he has punished himself and still does. I am
Oh,
sure
yeah.
Absolutely.
that he is never going to forgive himself, which is
Right.
not a good thing. Obviously, you should always forgive yourself. But
Right.
no, I think that he has been absolutely tortured by this,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
anybody
If,
would.
if you saw his interview, I don't know how many of the
Yes.
viewers or you guys saw the interview that he did with George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah.
He was a basket case in that
Yeah.
interview.
Well,
Yeah.
even in his interrogation, when the difference in reaction between him and Hannah finding out that she had passed, I mean, he turned completely white. I mean,
Yes.
his
Hmm.
reaction was just, I mean, I feel,
Yeah. He
yeah,
he definitely, he does get like a bad reputation, and but
Hmm.
I'll say, when I interviewed him at that one movie premiere, uh he was very busy, right? He was
mhm,
producer of this film, and he had to do a Q&A, and I was with my own podcast. I was a no name, and I chased
mhm.
him, and he's like, "What outlet are you with?" Like, I really don't have time. And I just, I said my outlet, my little podcast, and he was like, okay. And he was nice
Oh,
about it.
yeah.
And he gave me, if you understand red carpet world, he gave me about 3.5 to 4 minutes, which is actually a long
Wow.
time. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I thought he was nice, because he didn't have to do that. He could have,
Yeah.
pushed me on the head and been like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not looking forward to, that's just the wrong thing to say, but I want to
Mhm.
know what's going to happen with Hannah testifying at his trial. So is she going to be offered
Oh,
incentive
yeah.
to do so? What is she going to
Oh
say? How's
yeah.
that going to
Right.
Oh,
play out?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, my opinion is, and sorry, Lauren, I'll just throw this out and
Yeah.
then let you have a shot at this. So I 100% believe that right now that she will testify. And the reason I do is because I believe she'll be told by the prosecution, you testify against Alec, we're going to give you a reduced sentence. So, Lauren, what's your take?
That's no, that's exactly. I think you're absolutely right. But I think the question is, I mean, she's going to just put the onus on him. She's going to put it on. I have no idea what
Mhm.
she's going to say. And yeah, that's tough. I
Yeah.
just, I really think it's her fault. I not, I think that it's like, if I had to, I'll probably get a lot of crap for this, but I'd say it's like 80% her fault, 20% his fault, 90%.
Well, the jury thought so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the jury
Yeah.
thought it was her fault too, to some
Yeah.
degree at least. And so what is she going to do? Get up there and say, oh, this is all his fault? And then the defense is going to get up there and be like, what were you just convicted of? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. And I guess that's my question. But I agree with Scott, where it's like, she'll testify because they're going to dangle something in front of her.
Big time.
And say, yeah, do this. And homegirl wants out of that place.
She's been trying since she got in. She
Mhm.
wants out. Yeah, she wants
Mhm.
out. It's going to
Yeah.
be an interest. I can't wait to see that and see the cross, just to see the strategy involved with someone like her, who we know what her attitude is. I'm not sure she's capable of adjusting that attitude. And then on top of that, you know, the fact she's already convicted. So
Mhm.
Right.
getting a deal, you know, pointing that, I don't know. In some ways, I feel like, gosh, that could potentially be bad for the state, you know, to put her up there and the jury be like, what's her problem, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree with you. She's not a likable person.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
in general, from what I've seen.
She never did take really accountability, Lauren. She really didn't. You know, even
Nope.
even at sentence, she just was like, nope. She's
Yeah.
still saying that it's not really her fault. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. She never seemed sorry. Not once, not ever, from what I saw.
No.
And her dad
not at all.
backed her up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Her dad
which was
totally
really
so weird.
such a bad. Yeah, he spoke at the sentencing, if you recall, and backed her up.
And
you
didn't
know,
say anything good about her as a person. Like, oh, she's devastated by this and she's such a good hearted. He was like, well, you shouldn't do this because she's not at fault. This is what it was like. Okay.
I mean, to an extent, I get it, right? As a parent, we do want to protect our kids. We also want them to take accountability. And I feel like I'm pretty big on that. So, it's like, you got to take accountability for what you did, but I don't want to see my child in distress either.
Right.
So that's tough.
But you kind of have to know when you're going to make it worse for them, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Like, these people think my daughter's a total jerk. If I get up there and act like a jerk, they're going to be like, well, now we know where she got it from. You know,
right.
Like,
the apple doesn't fall far. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have to have some tact with that. But, it's
Exactly.
like when my son gets in trouble at school, I can't be calling the teacher like, I don't know why you gave him detention. Blah, blah, blah. I have to be like, so help me understand.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You do. You can't. Yeah, absolutely not. I get that.
Yeah.
So Sonia makes a really good point. And Sonia, thanks for being here from Puerto Rico today. We appreciate it. So yeah, it is going to be very interesting to see if Baldwin does go to prison. I guess there's two sides of that. I mean, he's so unlikable by so many people, number one. But number two, I don't know what you think, Lauren. Do you think that his celebrity status will play into this and will save him? Or do you even want to go there?
No, I think it's worse for him, clearly, because the reason that, this trial is happening is because something that he said publicly in the media, because he's a public figure and, headlines are made. So I think, no, this is going to it's bad for him already.
Is there going to be a jury that doesn't know or doesn't care about him? You know what I mean? Like,
that's also a good point.
I think there's definitely, okay, so my husband, for example, I mean, not necessarily with the celebrity stuff, but certainly with the criminal stuff. I mean, he's like, I'm like, what? How do you not know about this case? He's like, what? I don't, like,
I know.
Not everyone knows about this stuff, Rachel. And I'm like, they don't? Like, it's,
You're right.
Like,
no, you're totally right. My husband's always like, what? No, I don't know that. But it's funny. My husband does appreciate the clips that I send him from the shaming of Jay. He loves those.
Hilarious.
Because those are funny. Like you don't have to understand.
Toys.
Yeah. Or you don't have to follow what's going on to find these clips entertaining from like the Young Thug trial,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So I don't know. You think it'll be worse for him? That'll be interesting. And I guess it will depend on the jury's preconceived notions. But I'm sure that's going to be in the questionnaire. What are your thoughts, preconceived thoughts about Alec Baldwin,
And I think there will be a number of people that just don't care. They're just like, I don't care about him either way. He could, he could stay or go, and I will just go on living my life. But I'm sure there are other people who have, they feel very strongly about him. So I don't think it'll be that hard, I guess, to find an impartial jury. I really don't.
Yeah. I agree.
And the ammo guy, Trishy was talking about the guy who supplied the ammo.
Yes.
But he didn't have any he did not have any deal or like no, he wasn't charged with anything, right? I mean, he was not.
I think if you're,
No.
yeah, so that's Dave Halls, I believe the
Oh
assistant director. Is that right?
no, I think we're
No.
talking about
Okay.
the ammo supplier.
The
Oh,
supplier
The one that
themselves.
had like all those random boxes everywhere, right?
Right.
On the
okay.
shelf.
Yeah,
I
no,
Okay.
I
forget
don't
his
know.
name too.
I don't know about that. Yeah, not
Yeah.
sure.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, it was a perfect storm, disorganization and with these
Yeah.
people handling bullets. Like, I don't.
Well, and you guys, all that aside, and I go back to Hannah again. I don't want to harp on this, but since we're going down that road again, I'm going to do
Might as
that.
well.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So
We're already
ultimately,
canceled from Lauren's pink shirt, so go ahead.
I know,
I know,
right?
exactly.
Ultimately, it falls on her, whether they supplied bad rounds or not. It's her
Mhm.
job to check every single one of those rounds every single time, whether they're in a gun, out of a gun, whatever, and know what's on that set. Period.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And look, it just goes back to her age. I mean, my priorities were a lot
At
different at
25.
25. Yeah, a lot
Mhm.
different. And one thing that I was more important to me than work and being professional was partying and socializing and going
Totally.
out and hanging with friends. And your brain, I don't even think your brain is fully formed at 25.
Not till
So it
20,
just
not till 26. I mean, there's some,
there you go. And
but
that's my whole point, where it's like, I
yeah.
don't think my 25-year-old self, obviously I have a different background, but I don't think I would have been able to handle
Mm,
a
Right.
job like that.
Let's
Absolutely
pass a
not.
law. Let's pass a law where you can't give anyone a kid or a weapon before age 26. And then
Exactly.
Well, then we'd have
now I just
nobody to fight in our,
now I just got
I mean,
myself canceled. Well, outside of the military, let's put it that way.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. But just
Yeah.
your view of the world and the importance of things and your role in the greater universe is
Mhm.
not fully understood, I think, at that point. The
Yes,
impact that you can
exactly.
have as I'm 25, I still punk. I was still a
Mm-hmm.
punk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
same. I
Yeah.
totally
yeah.
was. And that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking of myself at 25, and I just was like, oh no, would do the bare minimum at work just so I could leave to go to happy hour or go meet a friend or whatever,
Mhm.
go to an event. So it's just not the
Yeah.
Yeah.
same.
Well,
Yeah.
and
I agree.
the idea, like Trishy's saying, hiring incompetent, unqualified staff, like that's the job of the higher ups. They need to be held accountable. And I think in this case, it makes me wonder if there was if her dad wasn't who he was, would
Yeah.
would she have been hired? Like, would they have hired a different 25-year-old? Like, did they have too much confidence in her because they felt like, well, look, she's so and so's daughter, so
Yeah.
she's
Or
got to
she
be
fit
like good
within their
enough.
tiny budget,
And that too,
Yeah.
bonus.
Yeah.
So she's got this
Mhm.
background with her dad, and she's really cheap. So, like, would they have hired somebody else who was
Yeah.
25 but didn't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that connection? And I think that's probably the way that things work a lot in Hollywood with who and connections. But
Definitely.
yeah, yeah, that was
Absolutely. It's yeah, I mean, I'm very anxious for this ruling. I think it could go either way
Me
yeah.
too.
for the new motion about the
Yeah.
gun.
I'm leaning towards the judge saying, no, I'm not going to entertain that, just because they do have experts that can come in and say, this is how it went down. That's why you bring in experts.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
It's
but
going to
you're
be,
also allowed to rebut those experts, and if you
you
don't have
are.
the ability to do that, but
Yeah.
so I think what it'll come down to is, did they have access to the gun prior to this to do their own testing and didn't take advantage of that,
Right.
or are they just bringing this up now because the result of the FBI testing isn't what they wanted? I don't
Hmm.
know how that works legally if not an
Yeah.
attorney,
I
but
I don't
Hmm.
either, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just
Yeah.
missing a lawyer in the
I
fourth box
know
there.
where's
We
Josh
are.
when we need him?
I
Yeah.
know. Right. Right.
Totally.
So I want to, I don't know if you guys are okay with this, but I want to shift gears for just a sec. Because I wanted to ask Lauren, if you're okay and if you're up to date on this case, which I'm sure you are.
Mhm.
Can you talk for just a minute on the whole Wade Wilson thing, the guy that was accused of?
I'm actually not up to date. I mean, I know
No.
he
Okay,
was sentenced to death. I
he
know
was.
I know that, but I'm actually not. I don't know that
Okay,
Opinion
case
on
inside and
opinion on
out.
face
Yeah.
tattoos? Any opinion on face
Oh my
tattoos? I
gosh.
don't know. That
I mean, I don't have an opinion on tattoos in general, but the
yeah,
way his look on his face looked terrifying.
yeah,
So he just is a terrifying person in general, from his lack of empathy empathy and just I mean, I'm just this guy. Yeah, he's scary as hell. He is what nightmares are made of.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Yeah. No, I was not surprised that he got the death penalty. I felt that he would, just based on his actions and just his whole persona. And like Rachel and I were talking, clearly the psychology stuff was not in his favor.
No, it was not. They did a very nice job. The expert testimony was very good, I thought.
Yeah.
Is that, should I catch up on that trial? I know it's like, it's pretty much over, but is it?
Nah.
Okay.
It's,
all right.
I just threw it out there just to see if, just.
No, it's horrible. And there's certain trials that I think I'm like, all right, my brain might be healthier if I just skip this one. I knew I had no plans to talk about it. I knew I had no plans to research or do a podcast or cover it anywhere. So I tend to sort of skip those if I can.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No. Oh my God. You should always put me on the spot.
Okay. All right.
I love that. Always do that. Yeah.
For a death penalty case, it went really fast too. It was almost like no time to catch up on it. I couldn't believe how short the trial was.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's something I'm learning, that, certain lawyers can only seek or be part of a death. I had no idea before I started working with Jarrett. He was telling me all these things. I'm like, oh, I had no clue.
And Kirk was talking about that too in your
yes. He did bring that up with the Jodi Arias.
Yeah, because he did 2 death penalty cases within a year, and it was like just destroying him.
I cannot even imagine.
Then he got lucky enough to have Jodi's file dropped on his desk, and then he asked the judge if he could not do it, and they were like, "Nah, you're doing it." I mean,
isn't that horrible? Can you imagine? And then he can't even go on a date with his wife without getting harassed and just stalked, and that just broke my heart. Oh my gosh, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Conscious Machine is really trying to get us canceled asking us to do a poll on should women be judges. Thanks for being here. I think we're going to pass on that poll.
That's really funny.
Gosh.
Is she thinking of a judge, or this person thinking of a judge in particular?
I don't know. Are you, Conscious Machine? Are you thinking of a judge in particular?
Are you thinking of Beverly Cannoni today, or is there someone else in mind?
Well, there's actually been, I can't remember what the time frame is, but has proved menopause was, oh Lord, you're killing me.
No.
You're killing me here. Well, there have been, 4 female judges in the past, I want to say like past year or 2 years that have been given the boot off the bench. But that's we appreciate honesty, Conscious Machine. We do.
Yeah, we're not laughing at you. I'm cracking up at your opinion, at your comments, but we're not laughing at you. I'll go down that road for just a second. I personally believe, I know Rachel's going to hide. I personally believe that women can be judges. I've had a lot of judges in my venue that were women, and they did a good job. And I don't know. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Hey, look, the judge who, what's her name? It slipped in my mind. Darrell Brooks judge. She was.
Oh my gosh, Jennifer Doro.
Yes, patience.
Oh my gosh,
of a saint. Yeah.
I mean, there is plenty of corrupt male judges, and there's plenty of So I don't know what gender or has to do with it. I guess unless they said something about menopause. Is that what I heard, or did I?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I've just seen, I've seen a few things on women judges this year. What's the Maddie Brooks case? That's so sad. That's the college, I think it was Louisiana, the girl that she was leaving a bar. She was completely overserved, and her friends left her there. So she walked outside and she got in the car with 4 college kids. Maybe they were 22. Yeah. 3 of them were Black and 1 of them was white, I believe. But she ended up getting gang raped in the car, and 1 of them was filming it and texting about it. And then they ended up dumping her off in the middle of a highway where she was struck by a vehicle and she died. Oh, wow. And so, it's such a tragic case. But the judge in this case, there's been a few concerns about this judge because of race. Basically, with the 3 Black defendants, and she's like, Maddie was a blonde cheerleader, and this judge actually, I think, her own son was accused of assault and she defended him back when she was a defense attorney. She also exonerated somebody who someone sent or something like that, someone who didn't ask to be released, and she just was like, oh yeah, no problem, here you go. She's on the board of the NAACP. So I think people were like, okay, maybe she should recuse herself. Now I haven't followed up on this. This was a month
to
ago
look into
or
that.
so. Yeah, you'll have to keep.
What's the victim's name?
Maddie Brooks, Madison Brooks.
Okay.
It's a horrible, tragic
We'll have to look at that.
Did not have to happen. I mean, the family's even suing the bar that served her because her BAC was like triple the legal limit and she was only 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, Conscious Machine 413. I was just looking at your comment here. So yeah, we did see that. I did see that anyway, that she left that off the verdict form, that Bev left the not guilty off the verdict form. I think having been in court a lot myself, as a former investigator, I think the reason that she changed that, honestly, is because she just didn't want to leave the door open for Alan Jackson to file some kind of a motion of misconduct. Yes, an appeal. And that's why she did that. So it makes sense.
And I guess his tone with her, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. That was frustrating, but I was like, oh, I'm so surprised that she allowed him to speak like that. So we got to give her some props there. I've been tough on her. I'll admit I've been tough. I had lots of issues with her. Like, oh my gosh, hurry up. Is that, I thought she should have been a little bit more emotionless, but I got to say, I was like, oh, you are lucky she's not, holding you in contempt here. But again, I don't blame him. I would have been upset too if that was my client and my client's life was,
He's doing his job.
Right. Yeah, he is.
He is.
And, we have to remember and this is part of the part, judges can do what judges want. I mean, they can say what they want. I mean, it's not always a good thing. They don't always handle it great. I mean, the judge in the Young Thug trial, I mean, that is like the most
throwing everyone in jail.
I mean, literally yelling at everyone. I mean, there's like a screaming match in there all the time. I can't.
Yeah. Like, that's an entertaining trial.
It is. I mean, judges, should have good control over their emotions, but they're human too. And can dealing with some of these people.
Whoop, we lost Rachel for a second.
What is it with this? I mean,
I don't know.
I have the worst luck with StreamYard. I swear. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, you're back now. You're back.
It's so random.
That was the fastest.
It's random.
Everybody's been cursing StreamYard lately on their channel, so I don't know.
Okay, I feel better then because I'm like, why am I always kicked off? Or like, this is always happening.
Yeah, I agree.
Terrible.
Oh, I just had a thought on the Karen Read thing, and I lost it for a second, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised too that the judge didn't dig into Karen a little bit more when she was laughing in her face, and I mean, it was pretty ugly. I mean, she looked at her and said, is this funny to you, Miss Reed? I mean, it was
Bev
not.
had it.
Well,
she had it. She was like,
she had
no one. Yeah, and I think she definitely felt like she was being ganged up on. I'm sure in her own courtroom. So she was probably just like, you guys, like, what's what I mean? Like,
right. However, good for Karen not saying, no, it's not funny. It's ridiculous. But
I know because guys, it is crazy that she was going to leave that off. And again, she kept saying, this is what they always look like. I mean, really?
Right.
And then, gosh, when she's like, Mr. Unetti, looking for him, like she actually thought that he was going to back her up. I was like, what are you thinking that you think he's going to back you up? He's not going to back you up. And he didn't. Yeah. He's like, actually, no. Yeah. That was crazy.
Well, she's had her hands full, in her defense, and I agree, she should not have left that off. I agree. But in her defense, she has had her hands full with this trial. I have never seen, I mean, there are a ton of witnesses to testify in this trial, and such a hotly contested, divided trial with people, on two sides of the coin here, and both of them very, very confident in their stand on whether Karen did or did not do this. It's a hot one, you guys. And, looking ahead, I kind of see the same situation coming with the Koberger case, Lauren. I do. the Idaho case. Again, I know Rachel's like, Scott, don't go down that road.
No, I'm fine with you going down
But
that road. I just keep
yeah,
thinking like, I need to know when this is so I can take the month off of work because
I know.
It's not going to be for a
it's
while.
going to be
It's
all
not.
consuming. Yeah. Maybe
Mhm.
I'll retire by then. Hopefully it's
Yeah.
not that long.
I mean,
Sadly,
Yeah.
sadly, it's not going to be for a while. I mean, I had heard that they were going to have a decision last Friday on a trial date, and that did not happen. You know, and again, it comes down to a lot of delays, and you know, Ann Taylor doing her level best to go as long as she can before this thing goes to court. Lauren, we all know that the longer it goes, people forget, memories fade, all kinds of things change.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And I was discussing with Jarrett for our next episode of Primetime Crime, we were talking about Kansas moms, and I'm very attached to that case. I plan on seeing that through till the very end, so those women can get the justice that they deserve. But he was like, this case is not going to trial till 2026. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I thought maybe 2025, but he's like, no way. And I'm like, man, that's tough.
Yeah. It takes and Sarah Boone might be by 2055. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, she's a Jodi Arias, right? I mean, I'm sure
she is.
Yeah, totally is. She might not be the promiscuous Jodi Arias, but the personality structure there, and we will definitely be doing episodes on that because
I plan on doing one too. I plan on doing one about the whole, you know, up until now and just the story of what the hell happened with her boyfriend, which that video haunts me. She's a sick person.
Yeah, I want to do a video on some of the psychology of that for sure.
Weird.
How does one get to that point, and what's going on with her manipulation and actions? And it's funny because I was watching Lawyer, you know, and I respect him a lot, and he was talking about, and he made a good point. So Sarah Boone and all of her attorneys that keep quitting and her demanding all of this stuff. I mean, her strategy is to stay where she is now. She knows she's going to jail. Her strategy is, she even said, my own attorney told me that I don't have a chance. Like, I mean, she told the public this, which she's complaining about the public hearing all these things, right? But writes a public letter to the judge that explains this. So
exactly.
She wants to stay where she is because jail is not the same as prison. And so she knows she's going to be there a long, long, long time. And she wants to stay where she is as long as she can. And Lawyer, Peter's like, it's kind of not a bad strategy. I mean, she knows inevitably what's going to happen. Innocent until proven guilty, but there's a literal video of her suffocating this man. So, hey, keep it cushy as long as possible. I mean,
Ugh.
So in response to Trishy 818, what trial is next in July? The only one that I can think of right off the top of my head right now is the Baldwin trial. It starts on July 8 if it goes. I know there's others. I'm sorry, I can't recall what they are right now, but the Baldwin trial is one of the big ones.
That's the only one I know of.
There's
right now.
I don't know if you guys are on Discord. If you are, I will give a shout out to
I'm not.
Dizzy. Yeah, Discord's a whole thing. I don't even know how to explain it. I haven't even
add another social media. I'll go crazy. Oh my gosh.
I know. I haven't even explained it to Scott because I don't know how to explain it. But if you are on Discord, there's a server called Seeking Justice. It lists literally every single trial in the world. In the United States. Updated documents. So I always kind of reference that. And they have a couple listed. They have one listed for July, which is Stephen Matthews. He's the doctor accused of date rape of 20 women. And so we may have to look into that. I'm not sure.
Stephen Matthews. Okay. What state is that?
State of Colorado. So that one probably will be live streamed. So we can look into that one. That's July 12th.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, definitely.
And real quick before we go, Tracy Ferreter took a plea deal this week to be on probation for 10 years.
Yes.
No jail time. She's the boy in the cage, boy in the box. Tim Ferreter went to jail.
Yes.
And she took a plea deal. So she stays out of prison and will be on probation. But my suspicion is that they will make probation a very difficult process for her in an attempt to
Mhm.
violate her. That would be
Yeah.
my
Is that
guess.
their adopted son?
Their adopted
Okay,
son that they put in that small
Oh,
room.
that's
Yeah.
horrible. Oh, I can't believe she
Yep.
got. Oh yeah, I think maybe I did read that. Bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Ugh.
she will probably have to check in very frequently
Oh,
for
yeah.
10 years, and missing one, she'll end up in jail. That would be my
Oh,
my
I
guess,
hope
Absolutely.
but we'll
so.
see.
I hope so.
Absolutely. So we have a
Yeah.
couple of minutes left, or about a minute. I just wanted to throw this out there because, Lauren, I wanted to give you an opportunity because we've had a lot of people join us in the middle to right now. So you recently did a great interview with Kirk Nurmi.
Oh, thank you.
And Kirk, for those of you who don't know who Kirk Nurmi is, he defended Jodi Arias in that case way back when. And so, Lauren, tell them where they can find your interview and whatever you want to say about it.
Thank you so much. Well, you can
You're
find
welcome.
all of my episodes of The Outlier anywhere you listen to audio podcasts, and you can find the specific video that I did with Kirk, our video interview, on my YouTube channel, which is Pop Crime TV.
Perfect.
Yeah, check her out.
Perfect.
Oh yeah,
guys.
and
Yeah.
subscribe to Primetime Crime. That's also on YouTube
Yes.
and on audio. But I would love for you to subscribe to that YouTube. It's Primetime Crime. It's myself and Jarrett Ferrantino, and I hope that everybody likes it. So, and if you
Awesome.
don't, that's
On
okay.
it.
It's not for everybody, but
Sure.
On it. We are going to end, but I want to remind everyone, check
Mhm.
on your friends who do not agree with the verdict in Karen Read whenever that comes down.
oh gosh,
Yeah.
Check on your friends.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you,
you for
everyone.
having me.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
thank you
Lauren,
so
for
much,
being here.
Lauren.
Yeah, we'll
For
have you
sure.
back again, Lauren, soon. We
Okay,
always
sounds
enjoy
great.
having you. And thank you to everyone who
Anytime.
joined us today, and including the people overseas. I know we had Leo from
Yeah.
South Africa here,
Cool.
Sonia
Shawnee.
from Sean. So thank you so much for all of your support today, guys. We
Yeah.
had some new viewers. We really appreciate
Woo.
it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and keep up with
Yeah.
us on Twitter /X.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.